Hey everyone, welcome to PC Perspective. This week, AMD released a new flagship graphics card that you see here in front of me, the AMD Radeon R9 295X2. Now, if you followed our website at all, you no doubt saw some of the viral marketing and kind of the weird things they were doing, sending out pictures of me, sending out pairs of Pringles chips to my hotel room while I was at GDC, all in an attempt to build up excitement about the dual GPU Hawaii graphics card that you see before us. Now, this card is impressive. It does have full Hawaii GPUs in there, full performance, full specification, and in fact, they actually run a little bit faster than the stock speeds of the reference R9 290X. You still have 4 gigs of memory per GPU, each running on a 512-bit memory bus, so you have 8 gigs total, and the now target up to clock is just over 1020 megahertz. But thanks to the cooling that you see on it, it's actually going to be able to come closer to those clocks more consistently, much more consistently than we saw with the reference 290 and 290X cards originally. So a lot to look forward to there. Otherwise, the other kind of specification that we have here is about power consumption. When you have 2 full Hawaii GPUs on here, we knew this was going to be a power-hungry beast and hot. Obviously, AMD decided to go with a non-traditional cooling solution. It is a 2-slot graphics card, but it has a self-contained water cooling, closed-loop water cooling system attached to it. So you'll have to install this in your case, and then you'll have to have room for an exceptionally long 2-slot graphics card with the R9 295X. In terms of power supply requirements, it's interesting because this card only has 2 8-pin power connectors on it. And if you do the math by PCI specifications, that's only 375 watts of power provided to the card, although AMD does rate this as a 500 watt TDP level product. How do they do that? They basically kind of work around. They're basically outside the PCI Express specification, which is fine as long as your power supply can live up to those requirements. Your power supply has to be able to supply 28 amps on a 12-volt rail or 50 amps combined on the 12-volt rails. And you have to actually get into knowledge about your power supply, which rails go to the hard drives, which rails go to the motherboards, which rails are available for connections. You might have, if you have a fully modular power supply, for example, you'll have to know which of the connectors are connected to 12-volt rail 4 versus 12-volt rail 5. These are all things that you're going to have to look up and know about before purchasing a video card like this. AMD has some help on their website, and we have, you should actually read the second page of our review for sure. It kind of details what these things are and what you need to keep an eye out for. But again, we're talking about a $1,500, yes, $1,500 video card. So if you're willing to make that type of investment in your gaming PC, chances are you're going to be willing to spend the time to make sure you have the right power supply and the right configuration for it. As far as the card itself, I'm pleasantly surprised by the look and styling of it. I think a lot of the design characteristics, the push forward that NVIDIA made with cards like the Titan and the GTX 780 and how they were just so impressive looking aesthetically does a lot for AMD here. The R9 290X and 290 were not great looking cards, kind of very vanilla, what we were used to. This uses a lot of metal in the design. I like the way it looks. It's still not, it doesn't speak to me quite as much as what the GTX series has done recently in the 700 series, but it's actually much, much, much better than anything we've seen from AMD in the past. The Radeon logo on top lights up bright red, and the fan in the center lights up as well. We have display outputs that include a dual-link DVI output as well as 4 mini DisplayPort connections, so you can have 5 displays connected to this out of the box. No issues there. No CrossFire connector, obviously. You can run multiple of these, but you're using XDMA, so all the communication happens over the PCI Express bus. So you could buy 2 of these and have a quad setup in your machine if you're crazy and rich and that's what you want to do. You can do it if you want. Backplate on the back is nice, protects the components, keeps things looking good as well. And then the only other kind of headache here is you have to install the card and then mount the water cooler in the correct spot. You've got enough length on the tubes, it's not really an issue. If you've ever installed one on a CPU test or a CPU cooler, it's essentially the exact same thing. It is the same thing. There's just 2 different water blocks inside working in series on the cooler here. So I think aesthetically that they did a very good job with the card, and again with a premium price and a premium product, that's kind of what we expect. In terms of performance, like I said, this is full Hawaii GPUs. These are 290X GPUs, not 290, so they're actually running a little bit faster than 290X. This card is faster than a pair of GeForce GTX 780 Ti cards running an SLI, pretty much across the board. I think in our 6-game test, there was one at 2560 by 1440 that was faster on the 780 Ti cards in SLI, but we did 4K testing with these configurations as well. And this card with 8 gigs of memory, 4 gigs for each GPU, was impressive in how it was able to kind of walk through and outpace NVIDIA in those benchmarks. It's a very, very impressive performing card. Again, for the price, that's what you would expect. Power consumption, it's using 250 to 260 watts more than a single overclocked Asus R9 290X Direct CU2 unit. It is, I think our system power draw was 663 watts, which is, you know, we have a 1,000 watt, 1,200 watt power supply, so have a lot of room there. But again, you need to make sure that each power supply connector is kind of matching up with, you know, each coming from an individual rail, I guess is the best way to put it. Sound-wise, another big improvement over their last round of reference cards. This is actually, with 2 GPUs, running quieter than a single R9 290X did in its quiet mode with the reference cooler. So that's actually really impressive, and that's with that fan and with this fan all included in the noise testing done there. It's also quieter, or about the same noise level as a single GeForce GTX 780 Ti. So even though it kind of looks a little bit odd, especially kind of laid out on a table like this, it looks much better when it's installed in a case. The cooling solution they went with, which is very similar to what Asus did in the Aries 2, is quite effective at removing heat, keeping things cool, and keeping noise levels down. They did a good job there. I really like this card. I think it's obvious that it's not for everybody. With a $1,499 price point, it will be available the week of April 21st. This is really the pinnacle of enthusiast level product, right? So if you're running a Pentium G3220, you don't want to buy a card like this. You need to have a high-end CPU, a lot of memory, a lot of performance in other areas to really take advantage of what this card offers. That price is, I think it's mostly reasonable for what you're getting. I don't think it's a great price. A lot of people were kind of hoping this would come out at $1,000. The fact that you can get a pair of R9 290X cards for about $1,200 today. You can find them on Newegg and Amazon for $599 each. You know, you are paying a $200 to $300 premium for the card in this configuration, but the benefit you get is you're only taking up one 2-slot part of your motherboard and case. You do have a water cooler to deal with, but it's also, the GPUs are running very consistent and also much cooler. These have a target temperature of only 75 C as opposed to 95 C on the reference design. So there's a lot to like about it. What I'm hoping this does is this will either drive down the price of that NVIDIA Titan Z, or maybe NVIDIA will release a dual GPU version of that doesn't have double precision performance. We can get a dual 780 Ti card out of them and somewhat of a similar price point. But otherwise, I think the Radeon R9 295 X2 is pretty much the PC gamer's dream. If you're going to do 4K gaming, if you're going to do multiple 4K displays, this is the type of graphics card you want to have, as long as you can afford it. Check out the full review at pcper.com. Thanks for watching.